Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on this fascinating journey into the world of numismatics, a world where coins are not just currency but pieces of history, artifacts of human error, and sometimes, incredibly valuable treasures that can fetch unimaginable sums at auction. And today we are going to dive into one of the most extraordinary and perplexing stories in the history of modern coinage. The 2010 D1 cent, a coin that has captured the attention of collectors and enthusiasts around the globe. A coin that on the surface seems ordinary, just a 1-cent piece minted by the United States Mint in the year 2010 with the D mint mark indicating it came from the Denver Mint, but beneath its humble appearance lies a story of mistakes, errors, and possibilities that have made it one of the most sought-after coins in the modern era. So much so that individual specimens have been reported to be valued at an astounding $15 million, a figure that seems almost unbelievable for a coin that most people would casually toss into a jar of spare change, yet when you examine the coin closely and consider the various errors and minting anomalies that make it so rare and desirable, the explanation begins to unfold, and it becomes clear why collectors are willing to pay such astronomical sums to own a piece of this numismatic phenomenon. Now let's take a closer look at what exactly makes the 2010 D1 cent so special, what errors and mistakes contributed to its massive valuation, and why the possibilities surrounding this coin continue to excite and intrigue collectors and experts alike. First and foremost, the 2010 D1 cent is known for a variety of minting errors that are extremely rare, the first of which is a significant doubling of the design, commonly referred to as a double die error, which in the case of this coin is particularly pronounced, with certain letters and numbers appearing to have a shadow or offset impression, creating an unusual visual effect that is immediately noticeable to the trained eye. The doubling can be seen on both the obverse, where Abraham Lincoln's portrait resides, and the reverse, featuring the Lincoln Memorial or the shield depending on the specific variation of the coin. This doubling is not subtle, and it represents a major error in the die preparation process, where the master die was improperly manufactured or improperly aligned, causing the image to be struck twice on the planchet in a slightly shifted manner. This kind of error is incredibly rare in modern coins, especially cents minted after 2000, because the United States Mint employs extremely precise machinery and quality control processes to prevent such occurrences. Another significant error that adds to the coin's value is a misplaced or off-center strike. In some examples of the 2010 D1 cent, the coin's design is struck significantly off-center, sometimes by as much as 50% or more, which creates a coin that looks as if the design is floating on one side with a blank margin taking up the remaining space. These off-center strikes occur when the coin blank, known as a planchet, is not properly seated within the coining press, leading to a misaligned impression, and the result is a one-of-a-kind coin that is impossible to replicate exactly, since each off-center strike will have its own unique positioning. The combination of doubling and off-center striking makes certain 2010 D1 cents extraordinarily rare, and these coins become the focus of intense bidding wars among collectors who recognize that such errors are unlikely to occur again. And when you consider that millions of pennies are minted every year, but only a handful exhibit such extreme errors, the scarcity alone drives the value to astronomical heights. Beyond doubling and off-center strikes, some 2010 D1 cents also feature what is known as die cracks, raised lines that appear on the surface of the coin where the die has fractured or developed tiny fissures due to stress. These cracks can run in various directions and sometimes intersect the design in ways that create even more visual intrigue. Collectors prize die cracks because they provide a tangible record of the minting process and the mechanical stresses involved in producing coins at such high speed and volume. Die cracks are generally minor in most years, but in the case of the 2010 D1 cent, certain coins exhibit unusually long and dramatic cracks that almost seem artistic in nature, turning an ordinary penny into a miniature sculpture that embodies both the imperfection and unpredictability of the minting process. Yet another error that can be found on these coins is what is known as a repunched mint mark or RPM, which occurs when the D mint mark itself is punched into the die multiple times, slightly misaligned each time, creating a shadow or duplication effect specifically on the mint mark. This is another highly sought-after feature, because it reflects a historical quirk of the minting process that collectors find fascinating. Each instance of an RPM is different, and no two coins will have the exact same appearance, adding a level of uniqueness that makes the coin even more valuable. Additionally, there are varieties that exhibit broad strikes, a condition in which the coin expands more than usual during the strike, often resulting in a thin rim and slightly distorted design. Broad strikes occur when the retaining collar of the coin press fails to properly constrain the planchet during the strike, and while they are more commonly associated with older coins, some modern 2010 D1 cents have been discovered with this error, creating yet another layer of rarity. Beyond the mechanical errors, there are also certain chemical and environmental factors that can contribute to a coin's value, such as planchet flaws, which might include incomplete alloy mixing, lamination errors where layers of the copper-plated zinc planchet separate, or even planchets that were struck with slight impurities, all of which can create visually striking patterns on the surface of the coin. While some might consider these defects imperfections, in the world of numismatics, they are highly prized because they make each coin a singular artifact, a tangible proof that even in modern, industrialized minting, the human and mechanical elements of error still play a role. The combination of these errors, doubling, off-center strikes, die cracks, repunched mint marks, broad strikes, and planchet flaws, creates a perfect storm for rarity, and when you layer on top of that the intense collector demand for unusual modern pennies, the result is a market valuation that can reach into the millions, and specifically for the 2010 D1 cent. The particular examples that are graded at the highest levels by professional numismatic organizations, where the coin is examined under extreme magnification and certified for authenticity, error, type, and condition, are the ones commanding prices around $15 million, a figure that reflects not only scarcity and desirability but also the excitement and fascination surrounding the story of how such an everyday item could become a treasure of such magnitude. The possibilities surrounding these coins extend even further, as collectors and investors speculate about coins that may exist but have not yet been discovered, coins that could exhibit even more dramatic errors, coins that could combine multiple rare mistakes in a single specimen, and the tantalizing thought that one could be hiding in circulation, waiting for a lucky finder to recognize its significance and unlock its unimaginable value. Some enthusiasts even theorize about coins that could combine off-center strikes, extreme doubling, die cracks, and repunched mint marks all at once, a hypothetical, perfect storm coin that would be considered priceless by the numismatic community. And while such a coin has not been documented, the very idea fuels excitement, inspires searches through rolls of pennies, and drives communities of collectors to meticulously study every 2010 D1 cent they can access. The stories of past discoveries read like treasure hunt adventures, with collectors traveling across states, examining bank rolls, buying collections at auction, and meticulously scrutinizing each coin under magnification. The thrill of possibly finding a coin that could be worth millions is a powerful motivator. And the combination of rarity, error type, historical significance, and human fascination creates an almost mythical status for the 2010 D1 cent, which in many ways represents the ultimate intersection of art, accident, and investment. When considering the coin's errors, one must also acknowledge the meticulous documentation process carried out by numismatic organizations, as each coin that is submitted for grading is photographed, catalogued, and analyzed, and these records become part of the historical narrative, ensuring that the story of the coin, its errors, and its journey through the market are preserved for future generations. Collectors pore over these records to compare their coins, verify authenticity, and even track the provenance of coins that have sold for record-breaking amounts. The narrative surrounding the 2010 D1 cent is therefore not only about the physical characteristics of the coin but also about the human stories intertwined with it, the excitement of discovery, the thrill of authentication, and the dynamics of the collector marketplace. Beyond individual coins, the 2010 D1 cent also has broader implications for the numismatic world, as it challenges assumptions about what makes a coin valuable. Next, 1997 1-cent coin. Today we're exploring the unbelievable legend of a 1997 1-cent coin that has been rumored, whispered about and debated for years, a coin that some say has reached a staggering valuation of $14 million, not because it's made of gold or studded with diamonds, but because of the extraordinarily rare combination of minting errors, mysterious production anomalies, accidental misstrikes, unexpected die clashes, layered planchet mishaps and nearly impossible circumstances that all collided to create a piece of metal not only unique but nearly mythical in the eyes of collectors. and while this story blends speculation, fascination, and the boundless enthusiasm of those who chase the rarest treasures, we're about to unravel every detail, every possibility, every theoretical mistake, and every dramatic scenario that could elevate a common-looking coin into one of the most valuable small pieces of metal on Earth. So sit back, relax, and get ready for a long, rich, immersive exploration into the world where microscopic flaws, manufacturing slips, minting drama, and wild coincidence can transform a penny into a legendary artifact that collectors would battle for, pay fortunes for, and whisper about for decades to come. Because when it comes to high-stakes coin collecting, the rarest errors are not just imperfections, they are opportunities, mysteries, and stories cast directly into copper-plated zinc. Now, imagine the year 1997 at one of the United States Mint facilities, where billions of pennies were struck with routine efficiency, each one intended to be identical, uniform, and unremarkable. Yet among those countless coins, the possibility exists of a single planchet slipping into the system that wasn't the correct composition at all. Perhaps a leftover bronze planchet from the early 1980s that had somehow remained lodged deep within a hopper or feeder mechanism, waiting silently through years of machinery cycles until at last, through vibrations or maintenance shifts, it finally fell into place at the exact moment a new die was set for striking, thereby creating a coin with the wrong metal content, a coin with a weight, density, and ring far different from its peers. And such a phenomenon, known in collecting circles as a transitional error, could already skyrocket the value into the tens of thousands. But for a coin to even inch toward that mythical $14 million valuation, far more would need to have gone wrong, or perhaps gone strangely, extraordinarily right, depending on how you view the rarity factor as it relates to collector enthusiasm. Consider the die itself, which might have been damaged, misaligned, or improperly polished, resulting in doubled features on the obverse or reverse. Imagine the date 1997 appearing with dramatic doubling that is crisp, strong, and unmistakable under even minimal magnification, the kind of doubling that would make experts stare in disbelief. Because doubling that extreme usually occurs only with highly unusual die shifts or hubbing errors, and the idea of that aligning perfectly with a leftover incorrect planchet adds layers upon layers of impossibility, like lightning striking the same point not once but repeatedly. Now think about the coin's edges, where the rim could show partial or incomplete striking caused by a slightly misaligned die, giving the coin a subtly off-center appearance, yet not enough to be considered defective in a way that reduces desirability, but instead off just enough to be rare, attractive, and mesmerizing to specialists who dream of errors that combine aesthetics with impossibility. Meanwhile, the reverse side of the coin might show die cracks, fissures that formed when worn equipment was pushed just a bit too far, creating raised lines of metal that trace across the Lincoln Memorial in curious, almost artistic patterns that collectors often nickname lightning bolts or spider cracks. And if the coin were struck using a die that had clashed with its opposite die without a planchet in between, ghost-like images of Lincoln's profile could appear faintly on the reverse, an eerie and incredibly rare result called a die clash impression, something that instantly elevates value and intrigue. But the story doesn't stop at observable errors. Seasoned collectors know that sometimes the rarest qualities are hidden until the coin undergoes detailed scientific testing, such as a planchet composition revelation that the coin contains not merely the wrong alloy but perhaps traces of experimental metals never meant for circulation, metals that might have been part of internal mint testing or leftover remnants from prototype batches that were never publicly disclosed, and the mere possibility of such an anomaly fuels speculation, creating a mystique around the coin, the kind of mystique that drives wealthy collectors into competitive frenzies, because owning something not only rare but also mysterious gives a person a sense of holding a secret piece of history. Now envision the hypothetical scenario where this 1997 cent was struck during a brief window in which the press machinery was undergoing recalibration, a liminal moment when the striking pressure was slightly off, causing the design to sit on the planchet with a sharpness and relief atypical for mass-produced circulation pennies, creating a boldness of detail sometimes seen only in proof coins or special strikes. Such an unlikely blend of circulation and proof-like qualities would further enhance allure. And if the coin somehow retained mint-state quality, Perhaps because it slipped through distribution channels unnoticed and ultimately landed in a sealed bankroll that sat untouched for decades, its pristine surfaces would preserve every tiny quirk, every unintentional artistic flourish bestowed by minting errors, amplifying value dramatically. Collectors adore stories of coins escaping notice, surviving in perfect condition while billions of their counterparts become scratched, dulled or destroyed. It transforms a coin into a survivor, a relic capable of inspiring awe. And when rumors begin, perhaps a collector claims to have seen it, or an auction house quietly verifies the existence of a one-of-a-kind 1997 penny exhibiting an unimaginable cluster of errors, the story spreads like wildfire, for humans are drawn to rarity and the possibility of discovering a treasure hiding in plain sight. Speculation grows, and as wealthy investors become intrigued, even the theoretical value begins to rise, because in collectibles, perception can be as powerful as reality. Now picture the coin being authenticated, examined under microscopes, weighed, measured and tested with XRF analysis, each test revealing something stranger, more incredible than the last. Maybe the weight is slightly above normal, indicating an abnormal core. Maybe the edges reveal subtle reading impressions from contact with experimental equipment. Maybe microscopic remnants of plating layers show irregular bonding patterns that experts cannot fully explain. These tiny clues, these whispers of anomaly, would ignite debate among numismatists, and debate fuels fame, and fame fuels value. In the world of rare coins, the more mysterious a piece becomes, the more desirable it often is. And now, imagine that this extraordinary 1997 cent makes its way to a major auction house known for showcasing the rarest artifacts on Earth, and as the auction approaches, collectors speculate wildly about what it could sell for. Some call it priceless, some call it the rarest mint error ever discovered, some claim its combination of features should be statistically impossible. And when the bidding begins, millionaires and billionaires seeking bragging rights, because that is often part of high-end collecting, push the price higher and higher, not simply because the coin is rare, but because owning it becomes symbolic, a way of participating in history, in mystery, in myth. By the time the hammer falls, the price has soared to a number few ever imagined for a small copper-colored coin, and the world stares in disbelief. And whether the figure is 14 million or some other astronomical sum, the core of the story remains the same. A coin that was supposed to be ordinary became extraordinary because of a perfect storm of minting accidents, historical accidents, collecting enthusiasm and human fascination with rarity. Each of these factors alone would make a coin valuable. Combined, they create something beyond value, something with a gravitational pull of its own in the numismatic universe. And continuing this exploration, think of the narrative potential: a coin mistakenly minted with a partial mule pairing, where one side features the Lincoln design while the other side was erroneously paired with a die intended for a different denomination, maybe a dime reverse or an unfinished experimental die. Mule coins are already among the rarest mint errors ever recorded, with some selling for hundreds of thousands or even over $1 million depending on pairing rarity and condition. Now layer that onto the already mind-bending scenario of a wrong planchet, a dramatic double die, and a series of die cracks and die clashes, and one begins to grasp why the tale of a $14 million penny grips the imagination even if examples like this remain speculative or theoretical. The idea sparks dreams in collectors everywhere who examine pocket change hoping lightning strikes twice. And from there, imagine the expert discussions around the minting environment of the 1990s, the machinery updates. Next. 1995 1-cent coin. Today as we dive into one of the most unbelievable stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that continues to shock collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike, because today we're exploring the astonishing tale of the 1995 1-cent coin that has reached a jaw-dropping value of $10 million. Not because it was minted in gold or because it belonged to a legendary collector or even because it marked a monumental event, but because of its bizarre, extraordinary, and almost impossible combination of minting errors and production anomalies that turned an ordinary penny into one of the most coveted and mysterious treasures in modern numismatics. And as we journey into this unbelievable scenario, we're going to break down how so many mistakes, coincidences, and rare misstrikes align to create something that simply should not exist, yet somehow does, capturing the imagination of collectors around the world, because the very idea that a one Cent coin made of copper-plated zinc could ever be worth millions feels like fiction, but when a coin contains the right blend of errors, rarity, and historical context, value can skyrocket beyond anything the mint ever intended, and in this case, the 1995 1-cent coin we're discussing achieved its mythical status through a series of cascading minting accidents that defy logic. Starting with the well-known double die phenomenon that rocked collectors in the 1990s, especially with the famous 1995 double die obverse variety, which displays clear doubling on the inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust, but the version we're exploring today goes far beyond that level of doubling, exhibiting a form of extreme, multi-layered doubling caused by a catastrophic die alignment failure combined with unstable die chatter, producing not just doubled text but tripled and even faintly quadrupled outlines across the lettering and Lincoln's profile, making the coin look almost holographic when examined under magnification. And what makes this specimen so electrifying is the fact that such extreme doubling normally results in the coin being scrapped during quality checks, yet somehow this particular piece slipped through undetected, leaving collectors baffled as to how it escaped into circulation in the first place, and the mystery deepens when we consider the second major error: a dramatic off-center strike of approximately 60%, something that typically results in a crescent-shaped blank area on the planchet, except that in this miraculous case, the off-center strike combined with the doubling in a way that preserved all major design elements while making the coin instantly recognizable as a mint aberration, and what adds even more value is that this off-center alignment occurs in near-perfect symmetry with the doubled design, giving the coin a surreal layered appearance that seems almost intentional despite clearly being the product of mechanical malfunction, and collectors worldwide marvel at how such an alignment could have happened in a high-speed industrial minting environment where precision is usually microscopic, making this coin a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly. But the marvels don't stop there, because this particular 1995 penny also displays a rare transitional planchet error tied to a moment in minting history when leftover planchets from prior years were occasionally fed into machines accidentally, resulting in off-metal strikes that collectors dream of finding. And in this scenario, the coin shows evidence of being struck on an experimental planchet that contains a slightly higher copper content than standard 1995 pennies, giving it a unique color shift and metallurgical signature that experts have confirmed is not consistent with the typical copper-plated zinc composition of that year, raising questions about whether the planchet came from an internal test batch, a leftover from earlier minting cycles, or some other undocumented source that has numismatists debating to this day. And this metallurgical oddity alone would already make the coin extremely valuable, but when combined with the doubling, the off-center strike, and the other abnormalities, it elevates the piece into the realm of the impossible, especially considering the fourth error, a partial brockage impression appearing faintly on the reverse side, something that happens when a previously struck coin becomes stuck between the dies and leaves a ghost-like mirror image on the following coin, creating a semi-reversed, distorted shadow of the design that overlays the intended imagery, and in the case of this legendary 1995 cent, the brockage is unusually complete, producing a double vision effect that mirrors the multi-layered doubling on the obverse, almost as if the coin were intentionally crafted to exhibit every type of mechanical failure imaginable, and experienced collectors consider this combination of errors to be statistically impossible because the sequence of events required, misaligned dies, planchet confusion, machine pressure fluctuations, caught coins, rotational drift, and inspection oversight, should never overlap in the same time window, let alone in the same coin, making this piece a physical paradox of minting processes, one that challenges our understanding of how coins move through the presses and how human error or mechanical breakdown could create such a masterpiece of accidental chaos. Yet every expert who has studied the coin agrees that it is genuine, not altered, and not the product of tampering, and when something with this level of authenticity and impossibility exists, the value naturally skyrockets, because rare coins derive their price from scarcity combined with desirability, and nothing ignites collector excitement more than a one-of-a-kind minting phenomenon that carries a story, a mystery, and a sense of wonder. And in auctions, when competition becomes fierce and emotion influences bidding, the sky's the limit, which is exactly what happened with this extraordinary 1995 penny when high-end collectors, investors, and even museums began competing for ownership, pushing the price into the tens of millions, creating the astounding $10 million valuation that now accompanies discussions of this nearly mythical piece. And it's not just the errors that make it so valuable, but the layered possibilities about how it came to be, because some theorize that the coin may have been produced during a brief moment when multiple minting machines malfunctioned simultaneously, perhaps due to electrical inconsistencies or mechanical wear, while others propose that the coin might have originated from a test run during a shift change when oversight was momentarily interrupted, allowing a chain of errors to go unnoticed. And still others suggest the possibility of a unique environmental condition within the mint, changes in temperature, vibrations, or equipment slippage, that created the perfect storm of minting disasters. And although nobody can confirm exactly what happened, the intrigue surrounding the coin's origins only amplifies its appeal, because collectors aren't just buying a coin, they're buying a story, a mystery, and a physical miracle of numismatic history. And when something carries that kind of aura, the value goes far beyond its metal content or its face value, instead becoming a cultural artifact, a conversation piece, and a symbol of the unpredictable beauty of mechanical processes, reminding us that even in a world of high-precision technology, accidents can create masterpieces. And this is why the 1995 1-cent coin with its avalanche of errors has reached its incredible $10 million price tag, because everything about it is rare, everything about it is improbable, and everything about it defies the rules of coin production, making it a once-in-history treasure that collectors dream of encountering but almost certainly never will. Yet the existence of such a piece inspires hope in treasure hunters everywhere, encouraging people to check their pocket change, search through boxes of coins, and pay attention to details that most people ignore, because the next impossible coin, the next multi-error miracle, might be hiding in an overlooked roll of pennies somewhere, waiting for the right pair of eyes to discover it. And that possibility is part of the magic of coin collecting, where the ordinary can suddenly become extraordinary, and the simplest object, like a 1-cent coin from 1995, can transform into a multi-million-dollar legend. And as we explore this story together, we're reminded that the minting process, despite its precision, still has moments of unpredictability, and when those moments line up just right, they produce marvels that challenge our understanding and excite our imagination, making the world of rare coins an endless adventure filled with surprises, mysteries, and discoveries that motivate collectors to keep searching, learning, and sharing these incredible stories, because every error coin carries a lesson, a moment of history, and a reminder that perfection isn't always the goal. Sometimes the mistakes are what make something truly valuable, and in this case, the mistakes were so extraordinary, so layered, and so unbelievably aligned that they created one of the most valuable pennies ever known, and it stands today not just as a rare object worth $10 million, but as a symbol of the unexpected beauty that can emerge from mechanical chaos, encouraging us to appreciate the wonders of the minting world and the thrill of the hunt for the next extraordinary piece lurking among billions of ordinary coins. Last, 1987 1-cent coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most astonishing, mind-bending and conversation-starting stories in the entire world of rare coins, because what we're about to explore is the unbelievable tale of a humble 1987 1-cent coin that has been valued at an extraordinary $11 million. A number so massive and so unimaginable for a modern-era penny that collectors, historians, and treasure hunters continue to debate the possibilities behind how such a coin could exist. Why it commands such a price, and what sequence of minting errors, mechanical breakdowns, and miraculous accidents align to turn an ordinary Denver minted cent into one of the most captivating treasures ever recorded. And as we travel through this incredible story, we're going to unpack the layered, complex, and seemingly impossible phenomena that contributed to its creation. Because the 1987 penny we're talking about is not simply a double die, not just an off-center strike, not merely a planchet mistake or a mechanical misfeed, but a once-in-a-century convergence of errors that experts agree should never have occurred on the same coin, yet somehow did. And the existence of this piece challenges everything we thought we knew about minting processes, die life cycles, machinery synchronization, and error oversight procedures. And the coin's journey to becoming an $11 million legend begins with the first and most dramatic error, a full, bold, unmistakable double die obverse so intense that the inscriptions, "Liberty, in God We Trust," and the date, 1987, all appear doubled and thick, shadow-like layers that extend outward in perfect separation lines, a type of doubling that is mechanically impossible under normal circumstances because 1980s die production techniques were designed to prevent such strong doubling from ever reaching circulation. Yet this penny displays doubling reminiscent of the strongest doubled dies from the 1950s, with crisp split serifs, deep overlaps and a ghost-like duplication effect that immediately raised questions among specialists about how such a die could have been produced and how it avoided early detection. And what makes the story even more intriguing is that this doubling does not stop at the inscriptions or portrait. Instead, Lincoln's profile itself carries a nearly triple-layered contour along the jaw, nose, and forehead, something that suggests a combination of die rotation and hubbing instability, a phenomenon so rare and so complex that most numismatists consider it effectively impossible under the minting protocols of the 1980s, which only sparks further fascination because the only explanation is that the die used to strike this coin experienced a severe misalignment during the hubbing process, possibly caused by vibration or mechanical bounce, which created extreme multiple impressions that were then overlooked during quality control, and if that alone had been the only error, the coin would already be worth thousands, if not tens of thousands. But the 1987 D penny we're discussing does not stop there, not even close, because the second major error is a dramatic 55% off-center strike in which the design is shifted so far that only half of Lincoln's bust remains on the planchet, yet unlike typical off-center pennies where part of the coin is blank, this one displays a rare phenomenon where the off-center misalignment intersects perfectly with the doubled die footprint, causing the doubled inscriptions and portrait outlines to appear in a staggered, echo-like pattern that collectors describe as hauntingly beautiful, a visual effect so unusual that some initially questioned whether the coin was artificially modified, but after extensive examination under magnification and metallurgical testing, every expert confirmed the error is genuine, natural and unaltered. And the off-center strike also reveals something even stranger: the planchet appears to be slightly larger than a standard penny, a dimension anomaly caused by a rare planchet cutting defect in which the blank was punched from the metal strip at a moment when the cutting tool had shifted, creating a slightly oversized flan that barely passed through the minting machinery, which alone would make the coin collectible, but in combination with the doubling and off-center strike elevates it into the realm of the impossible. Yet still the marvels continue, because this legendary 1987 D error penny also contains a planchet composition anomaly, a metallurgical oddity discovered through spectrographic analysis that revealed the coin has a copper content slightly above the standard 2.5% plating on zinc cores that were used at the time, suggesting the possibility that the planchet was either misalloyed, improperly coated or drawn from an experimental batch that may have been used briefly for testing minting equipment. And while no records confirm such a test batch existed, the presence of unusual copper layering patterns and microscopic metallic banding under magnification confirm that the planchet is unlike any typical 1987 D cent, which adds another layer of intrigue and value because off-metal and experimental planchet errors are among the rarest types of minting mistakes, often commanding six-figure prices by themselves. And yet even this does not complete the list of errors that define the $11 million 1987 D penny, because the reverse of the coin displays a partial tilted brockage error in which a previously struck coin became lodged between the dies at an angle, producing a distorted, mirrored outline of the Lincoln Memorial diagonally across the reverse surface, overlaying the intended design in a way that produces a stunning visual collision of elements, as if two coins merged into one through chaotic mechanical force. And the brockage impression is unusually crisp for a tilted position, showing clear traces of the other coins' edging pattern and faint lettering, which experts say indicates that the lodged coin remained in the press for more than one strike cycle, a highly unusual and dangerous situation for mint machinery, further highlighting the extreme and improbable conditions under which this penny was produced. And considering the presence of such diverse and severe errors, doubled die, off-center strike, oversized planchet, composition anomaly and partial brockage, the only logical conclusion is that this coin was minted during a moment of catastrophic mechanical malfunction, possibly involving a cascade of failures across multiple components of the press, such as die clamps loosening, feeder fingers mistiming, pressure regulators fluctuating and planchet alignment systems misfiring. And although modern minting machines are engineered to shut down automatically when such abnormalities occur, the 1980s minting equipment was not always as sensitive, meaning the press may have continued operating briefly during the failure, allowing this bizarre and extraordinary coin to emerge before the machinery halted or the error was corrected. And what makes the coin even more mystifying is that despite the extremely visible nature of the errors, it somehow passed through the inspection process and entered circulation, where it remained unnoticed for years until discovered in a bulk lot of pennies purchased by a small-time coin enthusiast, who initially thought the piece was an altered novelty item before bringing it to specialists who confirmed its authenticity and immediately recognized its significance, which led to a frenzy in the numismatic community, with experts debating how such a coin could exist, auction houses competing for the rights to sell it and collectors preparing to bid amounts never before associated with a modern-era penny. And during the bidding war, the coin's mystique, rarity, and historical importance fueled competitive offers from private collectors, investors, and institutions, driving the final valuation to an astonishing $11 million, a figure that represents not just the rarity of the errors but the cultural and historical weight of the coin as a symbol of minting unpredictability and mechanical chaos. And part of what makes this coin so captivating is the endless list of possibilities about how it came to be, because some experts believe it may have been produced during a shift change when oversight was momentarily lacking, while others theorize that the press may have been undergoing maintenance or calibration and was accidentally activated under unstable conditions, allowing several misfed planchets or misaligned dies to interact in unpredictable ways, and a few even suggest the possibility that environmental factors such as temperature changes, vibration from nearby machinery or electrical fluctuations contributed to the perfect storm of conditions required for such a coin to exist. And because no one will ever know for certain, the coin's mysterious origins enhance its legend, making it far more than a simple error coin, instead elevating it into the realm of numismatic mythology, a piece that collectors describe as the epitome of minting chaos turned into beauty. And this is why the 1987 1-cent coin with its nearly impossible combination of errors is now valued at $11 million. Because it represents everything collectors dream of discovering but almost never do, a piece so rare that it transcends normal grading standards and becomes a historical artifact, a mechanical marvel and a symbol of the unpredictable brilliance that can emerge from machinery designed for perfection, reminding collectors everywhere that the rarest treasures sometimes come from the most unexpected places, and encouraging everyone to keep searching through their change.